What happens when one of television's most outspoken personalities comes face to face with royalty that's already burned bridges with the establishment? The answer is pure television gold. And what you're about to witness will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about celebrity interviews. This is the story of how Sharon Osbourne absolutely demolished Prince Harry during what was supposed to be a routine appearance on The View. And trust me, you need to hear every single word of this explosive confrontation. Make sure you subscribe and drop a comment below, because this is unlike anything you've ever seen before. The cameras were rolling at the View studios as Sharon Osbourne sat at the panel, her trademark intensity barely contained beneath her polished exterior. Prince Harry had just walked onto the set, flashing his practiced smile to the enthusiastic audience. "Prince Harry, welcome to The View," Joy announced warmly. "Thank you so much for being here with us today." "Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure," Harry replied, settling into his seat with that casual confidence he'd perfected since moving to California. "So let's dive right in," Whoopi began. "You're here promoting your new mental health initiative for veterans. Tell us what inspired this particular project." Harry leaned forward enthusiastically. "Well, having served myself, I understand the unique challenges that veterans face when transitioning back to civilian life. We need to create safe spaces where they can speak their truth without judgment." "That's beautiful," Sarah nodded approvingly. "And speaking of speaking your truth, you've certainly done that over the past few years. How important has that journey been for you personally?" "It's been everything." Harry's voice gained passion. "I think there comes a moment in everyone's life where you have to ask yourself, am I living authentically? Am I honoring who I really am? Or am I just playing a role that others expect me to play?" Sharon had remained unusually quiet, simply watching him with those penetrating eyes. But as Harry continued, she slowly leaned forward. "For me, that moment came when I realized I couldn't continue in an environment that was toxic to my mental health and my family's well-being," Harry continued. "Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is walk away, even when it disappoints people you love." "Absolutely," Joy agreed. "It takes real strength to break away from family expectations." That's when Sharon cleared her throat, the sound cutting through the studio like a warning shot. "Harry, darling." Sharon's voice was deceptively sweet. "I've been sitting here listening to you talk about authenticity and speaking your truth. And I have to say, I find it absolutely fascinating coming from someone in your particular position." The atmosphere shifted instantly. Harry's smile wavered slightly. "I'm not sure I follow, Sharon. What do you mean by my particular position?" Sharon's smile was razor-sharp. "Well, sweetheart, I'm talking about someone who spent 30-plus years enjoying every privilege that comes with being born into the most famous family in the world, then decided to throw it all away for a Hollywood lifestyle, while simultaneously cashing in on that very same royal connection you claim to have rejected." Dead silence. The other hosts looked stunned. Harry blinked rapidly, clearly thrown off his prepared talking points. I think that's a bit of an oversimplification," Harry stammered, his media training kicking in. "My decision to step back wasn't about rejecting my family. It was about protecting my wife and children from the same treatment my mother faced." "Oh, please," Sharon shot back without missing a beat. "Let's be honest about what we're really talking about here. You didn't just walk away from royal duties. You've spent the last few years systematically dismantling your family's reputation on every platform that would have you, all while wrapping yourself in this victim narrative that frankly doesn't hold up under scrutiny." Harry's face flushed slightly. "That's not what I've been doing. I've been sharing my experience, my truth about growing up in that system." "Your truth?" Sharon's voice rose slightly, her British accent becoming more pronounced. "Harry, you sat on international television and accused your family of racism without providing a single concrete example. You wrote a book where you threw your brother and father under the bus for money, and now you're sitting here talking about authenticity. Where's the authenticity in that?" The audience was completely captivated. This wasn't the polite celebrity chat they'd expected. Harry shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Sharon, with respect, you don't know what it was like growing up in that environment. The pressure, the constant scrutiny, the inability to have any privacy or make your own choices." "Don't I?" Sharon leaned back, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Harry, I've been in this business for 40 years. I've seen pressure. I've dealt with scrutiny. And I've watched my family get torn apart by the media. The difference is I didn't run to Oprah and Netflix to cash in on the drama." Harry's jaw tightened. "This isn't about money, Sharon. This is about breaking cycles of trauma and protecting my family." Protecting your family? Sharon laughed, but there was no humor in it. By making your private family business into a global spectacle, by ensuring that your children will grow up knowing that daddy made millions by trashing their grandparents and uncle on television? That's protection. The other hosts sat frozen, clearly out of their depth. This was Sharon Osbourne at her most ruthless. And Harry was completely unprepared for this level of direct confrontation. "You're twisting my words," Harry said, his voice getting defensive. "Everything I've shared has been in service of helping others who might be in similar situations." Similar situations? Sharon's eyebrows shot up. "Harry, how many people watching this show can relate to being a prince who gave up his throne to become a celebrity? How exactly does your very specific, very privileged drama help anyone?" Harry's face was now visibly flushed, his carefully maintained composure cracking under Sharon's relentless assault. He took a deep breath, clearly trying to regain control of the narrative. "Sharon, I think you're being incredibly unfair," Harry said, his voice gaining an edge. "You're painting me as some kind of opportunist when all I've done is try to build a better life for my family outside of a system that was literally killing us." "Killing you?" Sharon's voice shot up an octave. "Oh, come on, Harry. Killing you? You lived in palaces, had every door open for you, every opportunity handed to you. A silver platter. Meanwhile, there are actual people out there struggling to put food on the table, and you're sitting here claiming you were being killed by having too much privilege." "It's not about material things," Harry shot back, his royal reserve finally cracking. "My mother died because of that system, Sharon. She died because of the pressure and the media circus that comes with being royal. I wasn't going to let that happen to Meghan." Sharon's expression didn't soften one bit. "Your mother died in a car accident, Harry. A tragic, horrible accident. But let's not rewrite history to suit your narrative. Diana chose to engage with the media when it served her purposes, just like you're doing now." The other hosts looked like they wanted to intervene, but couldn't find an opening in the rapid-fire exchange. Joy finally tried to jump in. "Maybe we should take a step back." "No," Sharon cut her off without even looking in her direction. "I'm not done. Harry, you want to talk about your mother? Let's talk about her. Diana would be absolutely horrified to see what you've done to the family she loved. She made mistakes. Yes, but she never abandoned her duties the way you have." Harry's eyes flashed with anger. "Don't you dare tell me what my mother would think. You didn't know her, Sharon." "I did. She would absolutely support me protecting my wife and children from the same institution that failed to protect her." "Would she?" Sharon leaned forward aggressively. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've turned your back on everything she stood for. Diana fought to modernize the monarchy from within. She used her position to help people, to bring attention to causes that mattered. You just ran away and started pointing fingers." "I didn't run away." Harry's voice was rising now, his accent becoming more pronounced with emotion. "I made a strategic decision to step back from an institution that refused to protect my family from racist attacks and media harassment." "There it is." Sharon pounced like a predator who'd been waiting for the perfect moment. "The racism card again. Harry, you keep throwing that word around, but you've never provided one concrete example of racism from your family. Not one specific incident, not one person, not one quote, just vague allegations designed to make people feel sorry for you." Harry shifted uncomfortably. "Sharon, you don't understand the subtleties of how these things work. It's not always explicit. It's about the unconscious bias, the different standards, the way concerns about my son's skin color were discussed." "Concerns?" Sharon's voice was incredulous. "Harry, grandparents wonder about what their grandchildren will look like all the time. That's not racism. That's human curiosity. But you and your wife turned perfectly normal family conversations into international incidents." "Normal?" Harry stood up slightly in his chair. "Sharon, there's nothing normal about questioning whether a baby will be too dark to be accepted into the family. But is that what actually happened?" Sharon pressed relentlessly. "Or is that your interpretation of what happened? Because those are two very different things, and you've built an entire victim narrative on interpretations and feelings rather than facts." Whoopi finally managed to get a word in. "I think we need to be careful about dismissing people's experiences of racism." "I'm not dismissing anything." Sharon turned to face Whoopi. "I'm asking for specifics. I'm asking for evidence because accusations of racism are serious, and when you make them on global television, you better be able to back them up with more than hurt feelings and convenient interpretations." Harry was clearly struggling now, his media training wearing with his genuine anger. Sharon, I don't need to prove my family's racism to you or anyone else. I lived it. I experienced it. And I made the decision that was best for my family. No, Harry, you don't get to have it both ways. Sharon's voice was like steel now. You can't make public accusations and then hide behind my truth when people ask for details. Either your family are racists, in which case you should provide evidence, or they're not, in which case you owe them a massive apology. My family knows what they did, Harry said through gritted teeth. Do they? Sharon shot back. Because your father continued to support you financially long after you left. Your grandmother welcomed Meghan with open arms. Your brother tried to maintain a relationship despite everything you've said about him. If they're such terrible racists, why did they keep trying? Harry looked genuinely shaken now. It's complicated, Sharon. These relationships are complex. Complicated? Sharon laughed bitterly. Harry, the only thing that's complicated is how you've managed to convince yourself that you're the victim in all of this. You had everything. You threw it away, and now you're making millions by playing the martyr. I'm not playing anything. Harry's voice cracked slightly. I'm trying to break generational trauma and create a better world for my children. By traumatizing them yourself? Sharon's question hit like a physical blow. Harry, your children are going to grow up knowing that their father chose money and fame over family loyalty. They're going to see the interviews, read the books, watch the documentaries where daddy destroys their grandparents' reputations for profit. How is that breaking trauma? The studio was dead silent. Harry looked like he'd been slapped. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. That's not fair, Sharon. My children will understand that I chose love over duty. That I chose their mother over an institution that didn't value her. Love over duty. Sharon's voice was filled with contempt. Harry, duty isn't the opposite of love. Your grandmother served for 70 years out of love for her people. Your father has dedicated his entire life to service out of love for his country. You didn't choose love over duty. You chose yourself over service. Harry's hands were visibly shaking now. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what it's like to be trapped in that system. Trapped. Sharon's voice rose to a near shout. Harry, you were one of the most beloved royals in history. People adored you. You had the entire world at your feet, and you threw it all away because your wife couldn't handle not being the center of attention. Don't you dare bring Meghan into this. Harry's voice was dangerous now. Why not? Sharon was relentless. She's the reason you're here, isn't she? Everything changed when she came along. Suddenly. Nothing was good enough. The palaces weren't grand enough. The titles weren't impressive enough. The spotlight wasn't bright enough. So, you both decided to burn it all down and rebuild it in Hollywood. The mention of Meghan was the final straw. Harry's face went from flushed to pale in an instant. His jaw clenched so tight you could see the muscles working. When he spoke, his voice was low and threatening. Sharon, you can attack me all you want, but I will not sit here and let you disrespect my wife. Disrespect? Sharon threw her head back and laughed. Harry, I'm stating facts. Your wife came into the most privileged family in the world, and within 2 years convinced you to blow it all up because she couldn't handle not being the star of every show. That's enough. Harry stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. I don't have to listen to this. Sit down, Harry. Sharon's voice was commanding. You came on this show to promote yourself and your projects. You wanted the platform. You wanted the attention. Well, here it is. This is what real questions look like, not the softball nonsense you're used to getting from your paid interviews. Harry remained standing, his hands balled into fists at his sides. This isn't an interview, Sharon. This is an ambush. Is it? Sharon leaned back in her chair, completely unbothered by his anger. Or is this just the first time someone has had the guts to call you out on your hypocrisy? Tell me, Harry, how much did Netflix pay you to trash your family? How much did you get for the book deal where you revealed private conversations with your dying grandfather? Those conversations were already public. Harry shot back, but his voice lacked conviction. Were they? Sharon's eyebrows shot up. Harry, you wrote about private moments with Prince Philip when he was on his deathbed. You shared intimate family details that were never meant to be public. How is that different from what the tabloids do that you claim to hate so much? Harry sat back down slowly, looking defeated. It's different because it's my story to tell. Your story? Sharon's voice was incredulous. Harry, the moment you involved other people, it stopped being just your story. When you talk about your father, your brother, your stepmother, you're telling their stories too. And you're telling them without their permission for money. Joy tried again to intervene. Maybe we should acknowledge that Harry has every right to share his experiences. Of course he does, Sharon cut her off. But he doesn't have the right to present one-sided interpretations as absolute truth and then hide behind victim status when people question him. Harry, you've made serious allegations against your family. People have the right to ask for proof. Harry's voice was barely controlled. I don't owe you or anyone else proof of my lived experience. Lived experience? Sharon repeated mockingly. That's a convenient phrase, isn't it? You can say whatever you want, hurt whoever you want, destroy whatever relationships you want. And then when people ask questions, you just say it's your lived experience, and somehow that makes it unquestionable. My experience is unquestionable because I lived it, Harry said through gritted teeth. No, Harry, your interpretation of your experience is very much questionable, Sharon fired back. And your decision to monetize that interpretation at your family's expense is absolutely questionable. You want to know what I think? I think you and your wife saw an opportunity to become bigger celebrities than you ever could have been as working royals, and you took it. Harry's composure finally snapped completely. You know what, Sharon? You're just a bitter old woman who can't stand to see people break free from systems that don't serve them. You've spent your whole life playing by other people's rules, and you can't handle watching someone choose their own path. The studio gasped. Sharon's eyes flashed dangerously, but her voice remained eerily calm. Bitter old woman, Sharon repeated slowly. Harry, I built my career from nothing. I fought for everything I have. I didn't inherit my platform. I didn't marry into relevance, and I certainly didn't get famous by betraying the people who loved me. You want to talk about playing by rules? You played by royal rules when it suited you, and then you threw those same rules out the window the moment they became inconvenient. At least I had the courage to leave, Harry shot back. At least I chose love over duty, authenticity over performance. Courage. Sharon's voice was filled with contempt. Harry, there's nothing courageous about running away when things get difficult. Courage would have been staying and fighting to change things from the inside like your mother tried to do. Courage would have been supporting your family through difficult times instead of abandoning them when they needed you most. My family abandoned me. Harry's voice cracked with emotion. They hung me out to dry when the media went after my wife. They did nothing to protect us. Protect you from what? Sharon leaned forward aggressively. From the same media attention that every royal has dealt with for decades? Harry, your grandmother dealt with far worse press than you ever did. And she never complained, never ran away, never sold out her family for sympathy. My grandmother is from a different generation, Harry said weakly. Yes, she is, Sharon agreed. She's from a generation that understood duty, sacrifice, and putting service before self. You're from a generation that thinks the world owes you something because you exist. Harry stood up again, this time clearly preparing to leave. I'm done with this conversation. Of course you are, Sharon called after him. Because this is what you do, isn't it, Harry? When people ask real questions, when they challenge your narrative, you run away. Just like you ran away from your responsibilities, just like you'll run away from this interview. Harry stopped at the edge of the set and turned back, his face a mask of rage and hurt. You know what, Sharon? I feel sorry for you. I really do. You're so trapped in old ways of thinking that you can't even recognize growth and evolution when you see it. Growth. Sharon stood up now, too, her voice carrying across the studio. Harry, growth is learning from your mistakes, not blaming everyone else for them. Evolution is becoming better than you were. Not burning down everything good in your life and calling it progress. I haven't burned down anything. Good, Harry said, but his voice lacked conviction. Haven't you? Sharon's final question hung in the air like a death sentence. Harry, you had a family who loved you, a country that adored you, and a role that could have let you help millions of people. And you threw it all away for what? A Netflix deal, a book contract, a chance to play victim on international television? If that's not burning down everything good in your life, I don't know what is. Harry stood there for a moment, looking lost and broken. The studio was completely silent, everyone holding their breath. Finally, without another word, he turned and walked off the set, leaving Sharon standing victorious among the wreckage of what was supposed to be a friendly celebrity interview. Sharon slowly sat back down, smoothed her hair, and looked directly into the camera with that trademark smirk. Well, she said to the stunned audience, I guess that's what happens when you ask real questions instead of playing along with the fairy tale. The camera lingered on her satisfied expression as the credits began to roll, capturing one of the most brutal takedowns in television history. Harry was nowhere to be seen. And there you have it, one of the most explosive celebrity confrontations ever captured on live television. Sharon Osbourne absolutely dismantled Prince Harry piece by piece, leaving him with nowhere to hide from the uncomfortable truths about his choices. What did you think of Sharon's no-holds-barred approach? Did she go too far, or was it about time someone held Harry accountable for his actions? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to Shoaib Buzzer Stories for more unfiltered celebrity drama that you won't see anywhere else.